رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. So inshallah, before I begin, a quick announcement. Mr. Wahid Shahingyan has graciously allowed for his time to be spent with you guys. So if anyone has any questions about the topics that he has spoken about the last several nights, you are more than welcome to sit with him and speak with him. So his time is available to everyone. And mashallah, those particular subjects that he has covered are very relevant. They're very important for us. These are very important questions that all of us have to, really dig deep and find the answers to. The reasons, the underlying reasons behind Karbala and the underlying reasons behind the mourning of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the commemoration in this grand scale of the tragedy of Karbala have to be addressed and have to be understood and have to be answered and have to be explained in a manner that those who are not within the school of following Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam can understand. And so we're very, very thankful to him for having done these lectures and providing that information to everybody. I wanted to talk about a few of the verses of the ziyarat of Ashura and the visitation of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just want to go over a couple of verses, and I wanted to open up after that open up the room to allow for questions, and whether related to this particular subject or to other subjects. So the ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is one of the actions that we do on the day of Ashura. It is also a very, very fundamental part of our religion, specifically the Shia madhab. There are a lot of recommended actions that are called to, and most of us are aware of many of them. Midnight prayer, Salat al-Layl, fasting on particular days, various actions. It's from the narrations, from the perspective of just looking at the ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. There doesn't seem to be an action more emphasized in terms of the numerous amount of narrations as well as the wording of the narrations as we have in the action of making the visitation to Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. This action, sometimes people think that it means to visit the Imam physically in the land of Karbala at his grave. According to the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, this is the best manifestation of that. However, for those who are not capable of going to the land of Karbala to visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam's grave, it is acceptable to say the salam, to recite the ziyarat, of which there are many, although we're going to be focusing particularly on the ziyarat of Ashura. It is acceptable to do those from your home, from wherever it is that you may be. The number of narrations about this and the wording of the narrations are exemplary. You see in some of the narrations, for example, that it mentions that visitation of Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam is equal to, it's like somebody who has visited God on his throne. That's the significance of it. That's the words of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. That it is an obligation on all of the Shia, woman or man, to make the visitation of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That every angel of God asked for this permission. Every prophet of God asked for it. We have so many numerous narrations. Now, approaching the visitation has particular mannerisms. The ziyarat of Ashura that we recited today is one of many visitations of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This particular one seems to have the most benefit attached to it in terms of what the narrations mention. According to the hadith of Ahl Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, this particular visitation attaches with it the reward of those who actually fought in Karbala, who were slain in Karbala, having the equal share of the martyrs of Karbala. Moreover, the hadith continue to tell us that it will also grant the person a share in every good action of prophets and righteous people. Now, clearly, this reward is incumbent on some particular conditions. It's not that, for example, anyone can just recite these words and receive such a lofty reward and position. So the first thing that we have to understand is that in approaching this visitation, approaching this ziyarah, when we want to make this ziyarah, we have to approach it in the correct manner, with the correct mannerisms, and with the correct understanding. The first thing is that if one wants to obtain this reward, they have to first understand what is ziyarah, what is visitation. The definition of ziyarah, according to some of the experts of the Arabic language, ittihad az-za'ir ma'al ma'zur. So it means the unity of the visitor with the one who is visited. So some of you probably wondering what that means. Basically, it means to make ziyarah of somebody. It means to want to try and be as much like that individual or that thing as possible. To focus all of your attention on that particular thing that you are visiting, to make it so that you and that thing are united. So in the sense of the visitation of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the idea is fairly obvious. Although not always easy to implement, the idea being that if you want to be a za'ir and make ziyarat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, one has to seek being unified with Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam. And what we mean by that is that one has to share in the ideology of Imam Hussein. They have to share in the actions of Imam Hussein. They have to share in the beliefs, everything that Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam stood for, everything that Ahl Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam stand for. One has to embody that within themselves. And once they do that, then they can start to approach that visitation properly. Prior to that, there will always be something lacking. According to the hadith itself, that mentions about this great reward, it says the person who is visiting the Imam has to do so arifun bihaqqi, understanding, knowing the rights of the Imam. And that means that they have to fulfill those rights themselves. That is, you as a Shia, or potential Shia, inshallah, you have to be abiding by the laws that Ahl Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam have set down. You have to abide by the akhlaq, by the mannerisms, all of these things, and then inshallah you will understand the right of the Imam. Because these actions that we do, we have to fulfill them in order to fulfill that right that the Imam has on us, so that we can call ourselves his followers, so that we can be able to obtain his shafa'ah, to be able to enter into his walaya. Walaya itself, if some of you may recall, I mentioned this on the day of Ghadir at a short lecture. The term walaya, it means, in its essence, being so close to something that you are essentially like that thing. So if you want to enter into the walaya of the Imams, the Ahl Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, You have to be so close in actions that you are actually connected. Now, this is the approach one has to take before even, going into this holy visitation of the Imam, which can be done anywhere. Now, I just wanted to talk about 2 lines of the ziyarah, and then I'm going to end there and open up for questions. The 2 lines I want to talk about are the portions which we recite 100 times. And only specifically I want to talk about just the idea of cursing and the idea of making salam. And that way we can inshallah all benefit. Because the reality is that oftentimes having a very focused and complete level of attention and concentration when doing worship, whether it's reciting ziyarah, or if it's praying, or if it's reciting dua, to have that complete concentration for most of us, including myself, is difficult for the entire duration of that thing. For example, if you're reciting the ziyarah of Ashura, it may be that sometimes your concentration may falter. The same thing happens when reciting other du'as. To keep yourself fully and 100% focused, it can be hard. That's why, at the very least, one should select particular portions of that and really concentrate on those, and that could be sufficient for them. For example, just being able to curse the enemies of the Ahl Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, making la'an on the enemies of Ahl Bayt, and giving the salam to Imam Hussein. If one does that, that could be enough. We have some hadiths. For example, some of the companions of the Imams, they would tell the Imam that I'm very busy, for example, during my day. For me to make these long visitations to the Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, to Imam Hussein, is difficult. What can I do? The Imam said it's sufficient just to, for example, go to a high place in your home or on a hill, whatever it is. Let's say in your house, if you have a second story, you go up and you stand on the second story of your home. Or anywhere. And in just saying, for example, Assalamu alaikum ya Aba Abdullah wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Imam said this could be, even this small ziyarah daily can be sufficient. Now, however, though, a person has to understand at deep level. So, the 2 verses. The first one being, Allahumma la'ana awla zaliman dhalama haqqa Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. وآخر تاب أنه على ذلك اللهم الآن الصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايت وبايت وتابت على قتل اللهم الآنهم جميعا. So this is one of the portions of the Ziyarah al-Ashura that we recite 100 times. Our focus is just going to be on this idea of cursing the enemies of Ahl Bayt, and what should we keep in mind. Now, cursing, actually I should just make a point here. If those of you who had been in one of the lectures I gave, I believe it was the second lecture I gave this month of Muharram, which was on the 3rd night, I spoke about approaching religious actions in terms of looking at them in layers. So the terms that I used were Sharia, Tariqa, and Haqiqa. These are terms that a group of ulama that we refer to as Urafa use. The Sharia is the outer shell, Tariqa is a more inner shell, and then Haqiqa is the most inner shell. So when we're looking at the cursing, the first level of that, we're saying, for example, oh Allah, you curse the enemies of Ali Muhammad. So there are many places in that ziyarah where you make this curse. One should approach this and understand it from the outwardly level, of course. And that is, you're actually cursing those particular historical individuals. And the benefit of that is that it prevents rewriting of history. And that's the reality. I recall I was reading a story from a book called Asrar al-Shahadat. So it's the secrets of Shahada. It's a book that talks about various aspects of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. And there's many things in this book, but it had a nice little story. I don't know if the story is true or not, but it illustrates a good point. It says that a man was walking one time, and there was a group of people. This man was a Shia, And there was a group of people who were anti-Shia. And they saw him and they started to ridicule him. Oh, you Shia, you guys do all these crazy, rituals and things like that. All this cursing and chest beating and crying and all these things. And so, what's this all about? And the man replied to him, he said, look, he said, the point is that the reason we do this is to keep the reality of this history alive. If for example, we were to kind of leave it and not to make these public demonstrations, then soon our own people would forget. Or they would start to forget, and it would make the job of the enemies much easier in rewriting history. And that's the reality. So this is from the outwardly perspective. Secondary perspective. Now, we want to go deeper. We want to look at the tariqah. So now, one has to see that, okay, yes, I'm cursing those historical figures. I'm keeping the message of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam alive that way. I'm preventing the rewriting of history. Now, I have to look at it, okay, is this curse limited to those individuals only? Now one has to start looking at the situation around them and seeing what aspects of society, what individuals in society, and which, for example, ideologies in society are there that are killing Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, that are killing Ahlul Bayt. And you have to curse those. You have to keep them away. La'an itself is to make a big distance between something. Salawat, when we say, for example, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, what we are saying is, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be as close as you can with Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And in thus saying that, we want to be attached to that closeness. Pay as much attention as you can to Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Be as close and attentive as you can be. That's what it means. That's what salawat means. La'an is opposite of that. So now you're saying, oh Allah, be far away from that thing. Don't give it any attention. That means don't give it any mercy. Let it destroy itself. And in so doing, you're saying, oh Allah, I am far from that too. Keep that away from me. All those ideologies and all those people that exist today that you have to recognize that are attacking and killing Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. You have to be able to recognize those things, because you have to look, for example, the people that joined Imam Hussein alayhi salam for the event of Ashura, they were subjected also to that propaganda that existed at that time from Yazid and before him from Muawiyah, but they were able to see through that. So that when Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam rose, they understood what they needed to do. They were able to see past all that, all those shaitanic influences. You have to be able to do the same if you wish to be with the Imam. So this is the secondary aspect. The third aspect, now we want to go even deeper. Now, there are aspects of you within your own soul. There are aspects of you within your own desires that kill the Imam Hussein alayhi salam of your soul. That kill the Ahlul Bayt of your soul. Those things inside of you that push you to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to dig deep and you have to make la'an on those too. You have to put them in the fire of hell. You have a hell inside of you. There is an aspect of you, don't think that hell is necessarily a bad thing. It is it's something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made to cleanse, that allows things to be cleaned. Fire cleans. You have a capacity within yourself to take these things, these parts of you that are killing Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam in you. They're killing the message of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam in you. And you burn them through tawbah. That's what tawbah is. You're turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're asking istighfar, you're asking for forgiveness. And you have to go through those steps of tawbah to eliminate these aspects of yourself. So when we're making la'an, you have to think about all of this. It's comprehensive. Then once somebody has been able to implement this in themselves, then they can cleanse themselves. Then they are capable of truly making salam to the imam. That's why next step, okay, now you're saying, Assalamu alaikum ya Aba Abdullah. Now your heart is ready because you've cleansed it from those other aspects. You've taken it away. You want to unify with Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. You can't unify with Imam when you have things in your heart that are against Imam. Clear, simple. But when your heart is cleared of those things which are against Imam, then you can seek to unify with him. You can give that salam. You can wish that peace upon Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam. And that salam, it's the aspect of you wanting to have also the serenity and peace that Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam has. To unify there. That is, you should also try to have that serenity within yourself, which comes from remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah bidhikrullah mutma'inna al-qulub. Only with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will the hearts find serenity, will they find peace. You have to have that with yourself, and then you can approach the salam. One other thing I want to add, and then I'm going to stop. When we make the ziyarah to Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam, it allows us, according to the hadith, to ask Allah for our needs, our hajat. And so, oftentimes, many people, they're asking, okay, Allah, I want this, I need this, I want that, I need this, etc., etc. And sometimes they get fulfilled and sometimes they don't. There's a story, one of the ulama, he mentions that we saw people coming and going from the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. And we heard them ask for all types of things. Master, I need to finish my degree. Master, I need to get married. Master, I need this, I need that, I need this. He said, never we heard anybody ask, Master, Sayyidi, help me to become free from this world, to become free from my desires. This is what you need. Abu Abdullah alayhi salatu wasalam, he is the leader of the free. Look what he says on the day of Ashura. He said, I will not give you an allegiance like the lowly one, and I will not run away like a slave. That means Imam alayhi salam is saying that he's free. He's not going to be subjected to the rule of Yazid, nor will he cower away. He is free. He's free from that subjugation. And also Imam alayhi salam is free from these lowly desires which chain us down. So the idea is you need to ask Imam for that, because that's the only thing that will give you peace. That's the only thing that will give you serenity. You ask Imam alayhi salam for some material thing, something of this world, if you get it, you're going to want something else. And you're never going to be satisfied. But if you want what will really benefit you, and what the true treasure of unifying with Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam is freedom from these lowly and ungodly desires and positions. So I'm going to stop here, inshallah, and I will open the floor for questions. And I would like to also invite Agha Shahyan to please join me so we can, so those who have questions, we can both try and answer. Please. So if there are any, yes?
As far as the questions in regards to the ziyarah?
Or it could be in regards to anything related to any topic that has been discussed these last few nights, maybe something related to Karbala. We'd like to keep it specific to Muharram, inshallah. But, yes. So, if if anyone has any questions. I'm sure somebody has some questions. Yes, Amir.
So, just regarding, the events of Muharram in general, why is it, do you think, that these events haven't, I can understand why maybe in certain countries where there's animosity, towards the family of the Prophet, why they would try to keep this stuff out of the history. But why is it that in general in the world, we kind of touched about this, on one of the other nights, but why is it that in general in the world, when you hear the history books and, there's a lot of talk in history classes and in film and things like this about other events and other atrocities, but something like this, is left out. Even older atrocities, things from like the Roman Empire and things like that, or things that go back even further, are left out. But like there's lots and lots of movies about Egypt, and the Pharaoh. There's lots and lots of movies about the Romans. There's lots and lots of it talks in history classes about these things. So why is it that we think that society doesn't sort of embrace these stories?
Oh, Shane, would you like to try to answer?
Go ahead, please.
I think that, from the first perspective, there have been a lot of works written about the tragedy of Karbala. I remember that one of our biggest scholars, Al-Hazuk Tehrani, he's a historian. He passed away about 40 years ago. And he wrote an encyclopedia of works related to Shiism, Shia theology. And and at that time, 40 years ago, he had counted over 2,000 books written on the murder of Imam Hussein, in various languages and from different, even people from outside of the school of Ahlul Bayt. But why is it that it's not as widespread as other things? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it really is or isn't, because we see that now, for example, the attending to the grave of Imam Hussein Islam at the time of Arba'in has become one of the largest events in human history. We have one of the largest human gatherings that we've ever seen. A lot of it may be due to what you had mentioned earlier about various governments keeping this information out. We have to understand that throughout our history as followers of Ahlul Bayt, Islam, it is only until very recent times that we've had like freedom in terms of governmental freedom to be able to disseminate the message of Ahlul Bayt Islam in a worldwide scale. And so this is a very recent phenomenon. For a very, very long time, most of the regimes in the region have been had a very strong animosity towards these messages. I mean, even till today, I recall that even just in 2003 it was, after U.S. invasion in Afghanistan, in Kabul, there was a gentleman, a Shia gentleman, who had imported about something like 10,000 or so books on Shiism, history, etc., to stock his shop. The local governance in his area confiscated his books and threw them in a river. And so, I mean, these types of things are still continuously happening till now. If you want to add.
I think one more thing that I can add to this whole thing is that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I have learned that the reason that you will see that the other denominations in Islam or other sects like our Sunni brothers also believe in the significance of Ashura, but in a different way, which means that they celebrate this day, is rooted into the historical effort that the government so throughout the history had to advocate. I think my analysis is that since from very, very early days, this event of Ashura was mentioned by Holy Prophet and Imam Ali and Imam Hassan, and people have heard those things, there was something already embedded in the culture that there is a significance to this day. Now, the event happened exactly the day that it was supposed to. Remember, the day before Ashura, they started to rumbling and starting the attack, right? And then Imam Hussein asked for one more night, because this plan has to be under the control of Imam Hussein, every single moment of it. It's not that they have a control on it. So that's why everything happened exactly the day that it was supposed to. Now people have read and heard about the importance and significance of the day, but then after the event took place, they said, okay, so this is why this day was mentioned so rapidly and repeatedly in the Holy Prophet's narrations, because they were bad, we were good, we conquered the bad people and wiped them off, and that's why it is a good day. That's why it's a significant day. Soon everybody realized that that's not the case. The nature of the event, the painting that was portrayed by Imam Hussein very meticulously and very elaborately showed everybody that this is not what they say. Now, they had to start the governments, the ruling powers from that point on started to fabricate narrations that are basically bogus, but they bring some importance that day. Let's say, okay, Moses, this happened to Moses on that day, which was of a nature of celebration, so it's a good day. This thing happens to Nuh on that day, so it's a matter of celebration, so let's celebrate this day. And they fabricated after, and I told you, just one little example is that the number and the amount of the fabrication of the narrations was enormous, was mind-boggling, the number-wise and the diversity-wise. So it's just what they have supported, invested, and sponsored, government sponsored that kind of fabrication of things. That's what made that still Ashura is an important day, but with a bunch of those things. I don't know if attached.
So with the issue of la'anat and Ziyat Ashura, from what I've learned before, is that la'anat basically means to remove mercy. So you ask Allah to dua, you ask Allah to remove mercy from whoever you're doing la'anat. Now, of course, when you do dua, you can do dua for anybody. So I can do dua for a person that's maybe misguided or anything, or maybe a very dangerous person. I can make dua for him. There's nothing wrong. However, what are the cautions that someone should take in regards to doing la'anat? At least in this case, we know it's the imams that are doing it, so we approve it. But how about, let's say there's some individual that want to do la'anat on? What are the things that we have to keep in mind?
The fiqh aspects of la'na is basically what you're asking. And so there are numerous rules, but the basic idea is this, that if one is going to curse, make la'na, I don't even like to use the word curse, but make la'na on somebody else, there should be some significant reason for that. We have a hadith, for example, because when you make a la'na on somebody, what essentially you are doing is you are deeming them into the realm of kufr. So we have a hadith, for example, that mentions that one who makes takfir on somebody else, for example, one Muslim makes takfir on somebody else who is also supposedly Muslim. The hadith mentions it's that kufr is true about one of them. So one thing one has to keep in mind is that if you arbitrarily do this, that is curse others or essentially say, okay, this person is going to the hellfire, if that person is not deserving of that, then it falls upon you. So that's one thing to keep in mind. We generally tend to limit this type of la'an on those particular individuals who are cursed by Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, then also those other individuals who have the same characteristics, the same following, the same ideology, they fall into the same category. Like for example, I mean, it's clear in his yard itself. La'na on Bani Umayyah Qatibah. All of Bani Umayyah. But it doesn't mean every single person who is related to Bani Umayyah. It means those individuals who have that same ideology and same same manners and same actions, etc. That carries on into today, and we see that in our own narrations. For example, we have narrations about the return of the Imam, alayhi salam, in which they mention about some of the signs that, for example, Bani Abbas will do this and this and that. Where is Bani Abbas? They're gone. The Bani Abbas is long gone. But those individuals who have those same traits, same ideologies, same actions, they're still there. So we curse them. Another thing that people have to be careful of is cursing in anger. One has to be very careful that we have particular narrations. For example, parents. Now, the one who curses in anger, we have like hadith that Allah doesn't accept it, but it can have problems for you. For example, parents who get angry at their children, and for them they curse them. We have hadith that it will destroy their rizq. Things of that nature. So one has to be careful with that.
And also remember that lan is a Quranic concept. Exactly, the Quran, Allah has used this terminology directly for specific cases. So it's not something that Shia came up with. The idea of lan is a legitimate thing that comes from Quranic teachings. We wanted to get ready for the Azadari. Are you going to do Azadari? As we are going to benefit from Brother Sarmad Azadari. May Allah bless him. Thank you for your presence. Sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.